Let's talk about how I would respond to those final two non-stimulus-based short answer questions from your AP European History test, set 2. So remember, for this one, you choose 3 or 4. So you can choose the one that you like the most, and y'all, I love both of these questions. Describe a significant cultural characteristic of the Italian Renaissance: secular humanism. Shift from religion, shift toward more diverse academic interests, shift toward literacy. Any of that would have been okay. Describe one political or economic factor that facilitated the Italian Renaissance. Honestly, you could go back and just talk about how Europe is now connected to the rest of the world via the Crusades. Or, if you wanted to be a little bit more specific, you could talk about the consolidation of power in wealthy merchant elites. You could have talked about the Medici family. You could talk about patrons. You could talk about people sponsoring art, which is going to facilitate, right, the Italian Renaissance. And then lastly, explain one way the Northern Renaissance differed from the Italian Renaissance. You could have done this in a couple different ways. So number one, you could have talked about how the Northern Renaissance is retaining Christian humanism, while the Italian Renaissance is really focusing on that secular humanism. But if you wanted to look specifically at art, you could talk about how the Northern Renaissance is very detailed, has lots of people doing lots of regular things, whereas the Italian Renaissance is focused on those Greek and Roman classics, those chiseled bodies, and that classical ideal. But remember, this is an explain question, so you gotta give me a because. You gotta tell me the reason for that difference. Describe one significant political characteristic of European unification efforts. This is where you would talk about those supranational authorities like the European Coal and Steel Community or the European Economic Community. These organizations are leading to shared sovereignty among these European states, so that is integrating them more politically together, again, in order to prevent another war. For B, you're just looking at an economic factor. I would have here talked about that European Economic Community. We are trying to join the economies of different countries in Europe to create a single market. This lowering of tariffs is going to be beneficial for all countries involved. And the EEC eventually paves the way for the euro. And explain one way the economic system in Eastern Europe differed from the economic system in Western Europe. Here you could just talk about capitalism and communism, I think would be the easiest answer. Right, we have the Soviet Union, centrally planned economies. We have Western European capitalist democratic powers who are allowing for more free market policies. But remember, you are explaining the difference for that, and your explanation could be that it's the Cold War. Hope that helps. Set 1 is next.